Well, welcome to this episode of ISV Talks. I'm Carol Livingston of Dynamics Connections and your host of ISV Talks. And on this episode, I'm happy to have Mary from JAT Consulting. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the channel, and a little bit about who you are.
Okay. Well, this was certainly getting into HR payroll consulting was not what I went to college for. I was actually going to be an astrophysicist. I wanted to be
Really?
in the space program. Yeah. So if you look at our logo, you'll
Gosh.
notice that we use the NASA font, and that's the main reason why. But during my last year of
Ah,
college, I saw a job posting for a city government for a computer programmer trainee, which was my minor in school. So I thought, hey, this will be great, other than, a starving student. So I took the job, and my first responsibility was to make program changes for the payroll system they had written in RPG. And this was
oh,
way back then. So
right.
my career ended up with a completely different trajectory than astrophysics, but started working on payroll way back when, and I've not left. So I've been a computer programmer for many, many years, and then I got into client support, and I found that I was better working with real people than I was programming payroll routines. So I changed
Yeah.
that. So I worked with a vendor, a couple of software vendors, and then ended up getting into consulting directly. And that was with
Okay.
JAT.
Yeah, so you have a long career in software development. I did not know that about your background, though. That's really interesting. And so tell me about how did JAT Consulting get started, a little bit of the company history.
Great. Well, like most consulting companies, we started with working with some clients that needed some assistance. And
Hmm.
again, I'm probably dating myself, but we were working and specializing in a mainframe HR payroll system. And so JAT was founded back in 1985 to help those mainframe payroll customers. So
Okay.
we were supporting, their application, and that really expanded from mainframe to all platforms.
That's amazing. So you started the company to do consulting on mainframes. So, and as that changed to more personal computers and
Oh,
client
yeah.
server, all that, you've experienced all of that.
Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
initially on mainframes, but as a software evolved and companies like PeopleSoft and others got going, client server, so it was now on servers and personal computers, and we've all seen that evolution, especially from hardware to cloud. So
Yeah.
we started doing ERP implementations with a system called Lawson, now called
Oh,
Infor.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was our original piece. And then we started doing a lot of time management systems with Chronos, time clocks and schedulers and things of that nature. And they're now called UKG. But back in
Uh-huh.
about 2002, Microsoft invited us to go to a conference to become a potential value added reseller of VAR with Microsoft Dynamics, Great Plains. And that was back in 2002. So we were very impressed with the Convergent show and signed right up following that, attending that show, and became a partner. So I guess technically we've been a
Really?
partner for 25 years, going on 25 years.
Yeah. Wow. So almost from so that was the GP days, right? That was the first ERP system Microsoft ever bought was GP. It started with GP. So you know Dexterity as well as
Yes.
working with Dexterity. Oh wow. See, you're really smart.
Yeah.
You know all
I
the
don't know about smart,
programming.
but very experienced.
Well, great. Tell us a little bit about your solutions that JAT Consulting has today, because I know you kind of moved into having ISVs.
Right. So
Yeah.
with our many, many ERP implementations, and for a while we kind of specialized in public sector. We had a lot of K through 12 school districts. We had some higher ed, and we worked with some other partners and Microsoft in creating a public sector version, if you will. And so what we
Huh.
did find, not just in public sector, but we found some gaps, and it had to do with anything with employee information.
Mm-hmm.
So we really started with a product called JPI, which is now called Payroll Connect. And this was for clients that were using GP, HR, the whole
Mm-hmm.
ERP, but they wanted to keep and own the HR portion. So all employee information was a single system of record. But then they wanted to do something more challenging, I would guess. Their requirements were pretty
Yeah.
hefty, and they picked ADP for their payroll solution. So we started doing this in sync process of taking the employee data
Mm.
out of GP and sending it to ADP so they could run payrolls and what have you.
Yeah.
So that was the start of Payroll Connect, and we started doing this so
Okay.
many times that we thought, hey, this sounds like something we can just package up and set up for customers. So our first real launch was in 2009 with JPI, now Payroll Connect. So we
Okay.
worked closely with ADP. They were
Yeah.
actually selling our integration as part of
Oh,
their kind of onboarding of their new
oh
client.
yeah. I kind of remember that actually. Yeah.
From there, we realized because GP had some challenges of tracking employee changes, there wasn't really a change register. So instead of sending full file dumps to ADP or Ceridian or Paychex or any third party payrolls, we created kind of its own change register. And that just made it a little smarter. We were able to
Yeah.
automate it, and then we found some other areas that were a little bit of a gap in GP. So we took that integration engine and we were able to do other things. An example is because we were a Kronos partner at one point, we needed to have this employee information update the Kronos timekeeping. So when
Okay.
they hired
Yeah.
somebody in GP, it would flow all the
Yeah.
way through to Kronos and their time clocks, and they're hired the same day, then go in and punch it into their clock virtually the same time. So that
Wow.
kind of
Yeah.
evolved.
Yeah. I guess that's true. So they got all these automated systems but not talking to each other. So yeah.
Yes.
So
And
okay.
now our
So
most popular one is something else. It's the Benefits Connect.
oh,
So
okay.
that
Tell us
is,
about that.
well, with again, with any HR payroll system, and when you have employee benefits, you have the need to report to each benefit carrier
Yes.
any changes, whether it's through open enrollment or onboarding or offboarding staff, or even staff changes, like someone goes from part-time to full-time. You need to let your benefit carrier know about that enrollment. And
Mhm.
so still to this day, that is not considered a mandated requirement. So most vendors don't include carrier reporting as part of their
Yeah.
HR payroll solution. So Benefits Connect was something we created initially for healthcare plans like medical and dental and vision, but most clients have an average of five, at least five benefit
Yeah.
plans.
Right. With different carriers too. Yeah, exactly. And they all have different formats. I know a lot of people still do things on spreadsheets and whatnot and hope it's accurate.
Yes. And then we found out with a number of clients, there was some landmark cases where employers were held liable if the information they were providing to the carriers was not accurate. So if they had
Wow.
an dependent that either aged out or was added to the family and their coverage, if that is not accurately reported to the carrier, they're not covered. And so you can imagine some of the
Right.
issues that can come up with that. So
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of helped kind of tighten up that system integration, make sure that all the information's accurate in sync. You've got all these different, connectors. So what do you call that? The Connect
yeah,
series?
yes, the
Okay.
Connect series. There's actually three main modules of the Connect series. If you want it payroll, basically payroll centered, that's our Payroll Connect. So employee data in your GP system feeds, any payroll system, ADP, Ceridian, Paychex, what have you. And then as a partner of Kronos/UKG, we made that compatible with the UKG product, which they also have HR, payroll, and scheduling systems. So we got involved and made sure that whatever APIs were needed to feed that information and make sure that that information was sent in a timely manner. The whole
Mm-hmm.
idea was to reduce that manual entry of trying to keep multiple systems that had employee data in sync.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you hear that a lot from customers having to maintain all the separate databases of employee records and the data. Are you working with other products besides Dynamics? I know you mentioned Dynamics GP, any other Dynamics products or other ERP?
Dynamics, yes. Well, there's really not too many, but Dynamics HR, there's I think it started out as Exapta AX, their HR system, and now it was kind of geared towards the F&O, but now they've discovered it's very scalable so that a BC client could actually use D365 HR. So that was our
Okay.
kind of our second lift. So
Ah,
it can talk
gotcha.
to any Dynamics HR system, basically, and with any payroll system, any benefits carrier, any time capture system. We're kind of that glue in between,
Yeah.
employee data and applications that use employee data.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've been working with Microsoft for a long time and collaborating with them. So that's awesome. Any industries that you work with in particular?
Well, as I mentioned, we actually started because my background was in public sector, we really
Yeah.
got involved in the public sector area as a vertical. But as you know, HR payroll is more of a horizontal application.
Mhm.
Everyone that has employees has the challenge of maintaining that information and staffing and paying their employees as
Mhm.
accurately as possible. So really, whether you're in healthcare, public sector, retail, manufacturing, the processes are similar. So there
Mhm.
might be some different requirements if you're healthcare or if you're public safety, where you have fire and police, which have crazy schedules. The process are similar between them. So we really
Right.
kind of consider it a horizontal application.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you mentioned, fire and they have unions and all of those add more complexity to manage.
Man, they can
So
keep us busy with the
yeah.
changes.
Yeah. So Mary, tell us a story about a customer that you've worked with that you've helped them be successful with your solutions and why.
Sure. One of a more recent one was during the pandemic. We got involved with Dynamics Con, and it was all virtual conference.
Yeah.
So it felt a little odd, but our name got out there. People heard about our solutions. So a shipbuilding organization in Louisiana had the need for carrier reporting. They had some challenges with getting accurate information to their various carriers. So they contacted us directly. They didn't go through their VAR initially and asked about Benefits Connect. So I guess it was about 2021, we implemented it for one of their most used benefit plan, which was, I think it was Aetna, but one of the healthcare plans,
Mm.
and they had all kinds of options. You have the different coverage options, and then they had different plans for
Oh,
different groups of employees.
yeah.
And they were very challenged with having to send spreadsheets, basically, is what they were doing, of employee
Mhm.
changes. So they saw our Benefits Connect, and we implemented it about 4 years ago. And it seemed
Okay.
like every year they would get a new benefit plan. They'll add Blue Cross, or the most recent one was they wanted to do the 401k benefit reporting
Oh,
to that
yeah.
carrier. I think it was Fidelity. Again, some of this is public knowledge, but the challenge was 401k Fidelity doesn't use the same format as a healthcare like Aetna. There's actually some named
Yeah.
EDI standards, but one
Hmm.
thing that we were able to do with our design of Benefits Connect is we created again this engine that says, okay, what plan are you working with? And we have, a number of formats, output options. And so this system can be just almost plug and play where you
Yeah.
identify the plans. And so they use their maintenance time, which comes with the renewals, to say, okay, this year we have a new plan. So instead of creating a whole new extract, Benefits Connect says, okay, these are the parameters, and we have externalized them so the client can actually do this, although
Mm.
that's we are there to help them. So they can say, okay, we now want to do our 401k plan activity to go to Fidelity, and that they're using the same
Oh, wow.
module,
There
Benefits
you
Connect.
go.
So yeah, so they really like the fact that they didn't have to retain a contractor or bring IT in to create a whole new format for a whole new carrier.
Yeah. Right. And then you're probably following kind of standardizations across the industry and for particular carriers. So that really helps.
Yes.
So, well, that's amazing. So kind of looking in the future, what are some of the new things that you're looking to add value or introduce to add value to your products?
Well, funny you ask because it seems now that AI is the big topic to discuss, and it
Right.
kind of
Seems
fits.
important.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So the concern is, though, when you're dealing with employee information and very sensitive information, you really shouldn't be going to a chat GPT or some,
Right.
very public AI tool. So it's more like using something like Copilot where you can actually kind of create your own parameters and utilize your
Mhm.
own internal information. So what we're
Okay.
seeing for open enrollment for benefits processing, that two parts of that. One is kind of an internal AI process where you can actually have dependent eligibility automated so it can look at what you have out on your employee record and discern that I've got some dependents that are either going to age out or age in. And so this can be automated to some
Hmm.
extent. And then when you're doing like ongoing enrollment, so anytime you hire a person or a person now becomes eligible for certain plans, we're looking to have AI kind of help the employee experience where it can really just ask some questions and then present
Yeah.
solutions back to the options, at least back to the
Yeah.
employee themselves.
Right. Yeah. Especially during open enrollment. It seems like there's always questions.
Yeah. So I know some people are, kind of concerned about having an AI bot kind of be that interaction, that helper,
I
but
get that.
it can certainly take care of a lot of the common pieces that come up, especially
Right.
during open enrollment, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. So if the bot can kind of assist or guide the employee, that's huge, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
And we
yeah.
know there's
So,
a bit of fear and loathing, concern about
yeah.
AI taking jobs, but we were really looking at it to enhance processes and just
Right.
make it a little more
Yeah.
friendly. I don't want to overuse the word user friendly, but it gives the
Yeah.
employee, the staff, a better experience in going through things that
Oh,
they
sure.
have to do at least once a year. So,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They do it once a year and then they forget everything till the next year, right? So,
exactly.
So until they need to know, right? That's when they need those tools. Any observations since you've been in the industry for 25 years? I think you got a long time experience working with partners in the Dynamics channel or other ERP systems. Like, what are you seeing in the channel with those longtime partners, and what are they struggling with?
I think that it's a good question, Carol. I think they're struggling with things like AVAR implementing ERP solutions. So they're implementing BC or F&O or some solution. They know accounting, they know about general ledger and setting up debits and
Yeah,
credits and paying your vendors and receiving money if there's something you sell or
yeah.
generate revenue from. But when it comes to HR payroll, that's a complete different
Mm,
topic. And so we're seeing with other partners, and that's where we can come in and assist them, that we can actually help them ask the magic questions for what they need to do to even set up
hmm
their HR system. So
mm,
that's kind of what we're seeing is more of a collaborative effort with other partners where they have their expertise and they're bringing
sure.
in expertise. So it really
Yeah,
makes it a nice environment to work with. And the goal is to make sure that the client has everything they need with
yeah.
their solution.
And what I see with your model is that you know the ERP and you know the HR and the payroll systems out there, and you know kind of the HR and payroll processes and things to be aware of, or partners aren't focusing on that. They
No,
don't have expertise in payroll or HR, so
and lately, there's been a lot of changes. I think it's a cycle,
the
but
cycle, yeah,
I think I don't know what it's called now, big beautiful bill, but there were changes on how tips are taxed or not taxed,
right.
overtime being taxed or not taxed. A lot of compliance issues are coming up, and
Hmm.
HR payroll is an application. It doesn't generate revenue, but it sure can generate liability. So
Right. Save you money and maybe in the end.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
If you do it right and you document it well enough, you can eliminate or at least reduce the
Hmm.
liability that can come with being an employer. So it's important to
Right.
have the systems in sync and automate where you can. Then you can concentrate on the nice to haves, the interaction
Mhm.
with the staff, and how even to the
Yeah.
recruiting piece, right? So the overall
Yeah.
image of the company, how do you
Right.
recruit? How do you treat your staff?
Hmm. Yeah, as
So
employees are onboarded, that also is important. They have an expectation of using the apps and technology on your phone, and so
yeah, the
so
days are going away where you filled out an application on paper and you
right.
did performance reviews on paper. It's all there
Yeah.
and you're using
That's
your
really,
phone
yeah.
now.
Yeah, I know like my daughter and my son, like they're like everything they do is on their phone. So that's what they're used to. And so paper is not a thing anymore for those folks. But perspective, just in terms of what are customers challenged with, and what are they trying to improve in their operations?
Well, with regard to HR payroll, and we now use the term HCM, human capital management, that's really
Oh,
any application that handles employee information. And you can't
okay.
even say employees, it could be just staffing information. I think that's where compliance, there are so many federal, state, and local rules, laws, mandates, and this can put an employer in very awkward positions of complying with these mandates. And so that's where we're seeing the challenges, both at the partners supporting their customer as well as the customer themselves, because they're
Yeah.
performing, right? They're supporting their staff and their operations.
Hmm.
So yeah, the whole focus on automation. And automation has to
Great.
be careful because assumptions can be made that, one size
Mm,
does not fit all. So, and since I
yeah.
was in the rocket science, it's not rocket science, but it can get you in trouble if you're not performing or doing it accurately.
Yeah, it just takes a rocket scientist like you to figure this out. So, speaking of in the horizon, in the future, what are you seeing being developed?
Well, I think, again, AI, the hot topic. We see that an internal AI, like Copilot, being used so that the employer can have their own rules and logic about their own population. And this can be grouped, and it is grouped. You have
Yeah.
part-time and full-time and all types of employee groups. And as I mentioned, the external AI tools and engines, they're not secure. So I think what we're seeing just more in the immediate future is providing the AI ability, but having it very much internalized. So it's secure, not just secure, but it's really tailored to the needs, whether they're employment hiring policies or performance management, things like that, that
Mhm.
you can automate, you can make it an AI agent, an agentic type of application, but you can keep it internal. So I think that's the trend with
Yeah.
AI is making it more of an
Uh,
internal engine and not something
yeah.
that is shared
Yeah.
with everyone.
Yeah. It seems like that's a trend. And I know you said you also told me something about you're working on a survey or something with HR
Yes.
professionals about this. What are you hearing?
I have about almost 70 different employers that have
Oh, wow.
participated. And it's just really for trends. I'm actually going to be publishing, I'll have that again on our website and in LinkedIn about how AR is affecting the HR, I should say HCM professional, because it's not just
Yeah.
HR, it's risk management, employee benefits administrators, obviously payroll managers, where they have some very specific
Yeah.
requirements and processes there. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
automation, everyone wants
Okay.
to be automated.
But still protect that sensitive data too. So yeah, having that governance and being able to make sure that the data is not out there in the public AI is really important. So
Right. I'm sure we're going to hear of breaches of
mm,
information because
yeah,
of AI. So, I think that it appears Microsoft is trying to address that too, because Copilot
sure.
really is something that can be
Yeah,
managed as an internal application. So I think
yeah,
that's what we see as a
wonderful.
trend.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a theme here. AI, AI, AI.
AI,
So
AI.
yeah, exactly. So what's the one trend you're seeing that's driving customers or partners to come talk to you?
Compliance. Sometimes we are contacted when an issue has already occurred,
Oh,
so that there
like,
was a court order or an earlier that we sometimes are brought in as expert witness to testify on what systems can do or if the system they
mhm.
had was able to help them comply with any mandates. So
Yeah. Oh, wow.
there compliance. So there's a lot of activity going on there with, especially this year, there were changes at many states where paid employee time off for a
Mhm.
family and medical has really expanded. So it's not just, I get so much time off after I've had a baby or I'm adopting or some major event like that where you need to make sure that they get a minimum because some states like California, Minnesota say, okay, you get this much pay when someone's on paid time off. And it's not
Yeah.
just, I've accrued 3 weeks, so I'm going to get paid 3 weeks. Some of the states are saying, no, the employer actually is required to pay you more than you've accrued. So,
Hmm.
and this has been going on for a while, but just recently,
Yeah.
again, January 1 for a couple of states
Yeah.
was a big deal. So,
Well, yeah, and is it ignorance or I mean, there's so many laws, like you said, people are just, not meaning to, but they didn't know and they just missed some, compliance statute that they needed to comply with.
I think it's hard for employers to keep up with
Yeah.
these mandates. Some are legislated, so you kind of hear about those. But for the most part, outside of bargaining units and unions, they're all kind of public, especially when they come at the
Yeah.
state and federal level. And so they're out there, and there are some sources an employer can go to see if they're compliant, but that is something that we provide as kind of a separate service, but a compliance assessment.
Yeah.
For example, we support the state of Colorado in their tax reporting.
Really?
Yes. And we've been doing that. JT has been doing that for almost 20 years. And they have an old mainframe payroll system. They'll be moving. This is public record, so I'm not
Yeah.
divulging anything that's sensitive, but they have employees in 35 states. So state employees in
Wow.
Colorado can live almost anywhere in the country.
Anywhere.
And then the employer, the state, has to actually comply with the tax rules for every state that the staff is employed in. So
Mm.
so
That's
we monitor
complex.
these rules out
Yeah.
there and then we rehash it so that, people can understand them in simpler terms
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
make sure they stay in compliance.
That's good. That's amazing. Well, I'm really glad you're there to help partners and customers with all of this complex stuff. Well, thank you, Mary, for joining me today on this episode of ISV Talks. I had a fun time learning about how you started out in space, engineering, and then went into software development. So, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was actually, I'm excited. I'm almost an evangelist on things about anything to do with employees and staffing. So,
Yes.
it's hard to shut me up on this, but I appreciate the opportunity. And I know that this can generate more questions, especially if you have clients
Hmm.
or you're a client and you're struggling with compliance and even something as supposedly simple as carrier reporting. So feel free to contact us we have a general contact email that's support, SUPPORT, at JATNET, jatnet.com. And that's our website, jatnet.com, jatnet. And we also have toll-free numbers to reach out to us, 1-800-367-0072. And you can press any of the options there to reach me or any of our team members. And we'd love to help answer any questions you have
Yeah.
about connecting this information up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mary. All right. Well, thank you, friends, for joining this episode of ISV Talks. We'll see you on the next episode, friends. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.